You think the situation is right now on the ground in Libya, Mark? Could it flare up, and could we see NATO airstrikes or something like that?
Well, like I said, I think it's going to be a while. I think that our NATO allies in Europe are very, very concerned, and we are likely to get, in the last instance, although it's a few days away, a lot of support for some kind of military operation. I should point out, it seems to me that the British already have special forces that have been on the ground in Libya. That's very interesting. And the sharing of intelligence with the special forces commander could make the difference. I think the revolution has a very good chance of succeeding, but it has to move very quickly, and sharing intelligence with them would be key.
And just going back to this idea of a no-fly zone, this idea has been floating around for the past couple of days. Do you think that this will actually happen and the UN will endorse it?
If this goes on too much longer, I think it's quite possible. There's no love lost here in the United States for Muammar Gaddafi. We'd love to see him gone. And if this revolution has a chance of succeeding, and has a very good chance of succeeding, that would certainly be a greater option than it is right now. I must say, we have to think about the credibility of this revolution. It's a very important question. I see on AlJazeera's website a sign of Libyan revolutionaries saying, "Don't intervene, we can do this ourselves." I think that that's probably a good idea. We would like these revolutions to be in the hands of the people and not in the hands of the United States.
All right, so Mark Perry, thank you very much for that. Well, as anti-government groups in Libya have progressed towards the capital, Tripoli, control of the country's resources has become key. And as Tony Bertley reports from the opposition-held eastern town of AlJazeera, the front lines are becoming ever more tense.
The firing may be practiced, but these men have determination and conviction. Both could still be put to the test.
No, like Gaddafi, everybody is strong. The AlJazeera people very strong.
AlJazeera is one of the last main towns standing before pro-Gaddafi forces in eastern Libya. And if there is an attack, this is where the main line of defence will form. 80 kilometres down the road towards Tripoli is the town of Brega, and this is the new front line in this uprising. A little way past here lies Gaddafi territory. This is our area of control, he told me. After 40 kilometres there are Gaddafi forces. They attacked nearby 2 days ago, and there is still danger here. Understandably, tensions are high here as fighters check for escaping Gaddafi supporters and mercenaries. Confusion is easy, speculation is rife. The threat is real as Brega is strategically important, controlling the main road to Benghazi and also one of the country's biggest oil and gas installations. The state-owned SIRT facility processed thousands of barrels of oil a day from the nearby fields. Now, like all the country's oil fields, it is in the hands of the opposition, but they are worried.
There are fears that in a final act of retribution, Gaddafi will do what Saddam did in Kuwait in the first Gulf War 20 years ago and set the oil installations and the oil fields ablaze. Oil will be the lifeline for the new Libya, but in the old Libya, relatively few ordinary people benefited from the huge wealth it generated.
For a seemingly rich oil-producing country, Libya in the countryside has few trappings of wealth.
In Libya, the petrol wealth doesn't reach the people. It's spent directly on Gaddafi and the people around him.
Libya was making around $150 million a day from oil. It's hard to see any of that in AlJazeera, which is now suffering from a shortage of food and medicine. A walk through the local hospital tells the story. It serves 250,000 people, covering an area of 1,000 square kilometres. It manages on a budget of less than 5% of what is needed and survives through handouts and donations.
People maybe died because of shortening happened here. And many of people go to Egypt and Tunisia to treat it there because the facility, no facility enough to cover.
There is much to put right in Libya, much that the people need. But what they need most now is their leader to go. Tony Bertley, AlJazeera, AlJazeera, Eastern Libya.
Well, Egypt's public prosecutor has issued a travel ban on former President Hosni Mubarak as well as his family, and he's also put a freeze on their financial assets. Here is Ayman Muhyiddin.
Forced out of office and now in the crosshairs of Egypt's prosecutor general. On Monday, former President Hosni Mubarak and his family were banned from traveling abroad and all of their financial assets and property in Egypt frozen pending further investigation. Mubarak and his family had reportedly accumulated billions of dollars in wealth during their 30 years in power in both domestic and foreign assets. The president's two sons, Ala and Gamal, were widely believed to have exploited their family ties for personal financial gains. Holding Mubarak and his former regime accountable is important if Egypt is to make a break from its past.
I think it's a very positive decision. One of the demands of the revolution, which pushes it forward and reassures the people to a great extent, especially these investigations in corruption.
Shortly after Mubarak left office, Egypt's foreign ministry requested foreign governments and financial institutions to freeze all foreign assets belonging to Mubarak's family. The travel ban and freeze is being imposed nearly 3 weeks after Mubarak stepped down, leaving some to question the prosecutor's intentions.
This is a positive step, but very late. It should have been taken when the prosecutor issued his decision to freeze Mubarak's assets abroad, and even before then, because it has given Mubarak time to smuggle his assets out of the country.
Mubarak is the most senior official of the previous regime, who is now under investigation for illegal activity. Similar travel bans and investigations have been launched into several top officials that served under Mubarak. And on Monday, indictments were filed against former ministers who are now set to go on trial in early March. Holding former regime officials accountable was one of the main demands of Egypt's revolutionary movement, saying the current leadership of the country must cut all ties with the past by sending a strong signal it will prosecute Mubarak's alleged wrongdoings. While many will see this as a positive step in the right direction, others will say it's too little too late, and that the delay in issuing such a freeze will merely have allowed the Mubarak family even more opportunity to hide any ill-gotten gains. Ayman Muhyiddin, AlJazeera, Cairo.
Well, a heavy military presence was back on the streets of the Tunisian capital a day after the prime minister bowed out following a wave of deadly protests. 2 ministers have also now resigned from the caretaker government. In Oman, a supermarket was set on fire and protesters blocked roads to 2 of the country's main export ports. That was on Monday. As many as 6 people died during clashes with police in the northern coastal city of Sohar. Demonstrators are demanding economic as well as political reform. In Bahrain, protesters blockaded parliament in an attempt to increase pressure for government reform. Bahrain's Crown Prince Salman bin Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa said on Monday that efforts were underway to launch talks with the opposition. And Yemen's opposition has rejected an offer to join a unity government with the president. A coalition of political groups and anti-government protesters wants President Ali Abdullah Saleh to step down instead. Well, the uprisings in North Africa have also stirred opposition movements further south. Zimbabwe's Robert Mugabe is another longtime leader whose rule has been marked by repression, and now